Welcome back to Solo Adventures! My name is Livy and I'm here today with a solo game review. So today the game we're going to be taking a look at is Route Finder Intercontinental. So you might remember this game as an entrant in the 2020 BGG Solitaire Game Design Contest. Back then it was known as Route Finder Transcontinental. Now it is called Route Finder Intercontinental. The game is now in its final published format, and the designer was kind enough to send me a copy so that we could take a look at it together. So before I get into too many more details about this game, let's take a look at the physical aspect of it. So this is the final retail version of Route Finder. You can see that it is in the format of a booklet. If I'm not wrong, I think that the designer of the game himself puts these together, so they're all handmade. And the first thing you'll notice when you hold this booklet is that it's bulging. Like, it's just literally bursting with content. It's almost kind of hard to keep it closed, but that is because the boards and the tables that you're going to use for this game are on the inside. So you need to open up the staples and kind of pry these out. And then you will have your full color boards and tables that you can set aside. So I just wanted to show you what the game looks like when you buy it, pretty much straight out of the package. And now I'm going to show you what it looks like when you take the tables out. Okay, so I managed to pry open the staples and get these boards and tables out. The book itself is made out of extremely nice, high quality, smooth, heavy paper. So it's always going to be a bit bulgy here. I don't mind that at all. I would rather the paper was heavy and a little bit chunky rather than flimsy. The boards on the inside are made of a much thicker material. It's kind of a cardstock. It's a bit glossy. So there are 3 sheets that you need to pull out of the book. You have your first one here, which is your map. Thankfully, on the back, we only have some cool artwork and no useful information because this is going to need to stay face up the whole time when we're playing. And in addition, we have the 4 tables. We have our sponsor table for the very beginning of the game when we pick our sponsors. And then the technology table when we are building our plane. We have the flight table, which we're going to be rolling on a lot every time we make a leg of the flight. And then the city table, every time we stop in a city. So these are the 2 tables that we're going to use the most often. We won't have to look at this side all that much, so that's very nice that these 2 are on separate sheets so we can just keep them face up while we play. So the quality of the tables and the board are quite nice. As I said, they're pretty heavy and they're in full color. The print quality seems good. The ink doesn't seem to be smudging. No complaints there. Here we have the map, and I think it's exactly the same as the one that was in the P&P contest prototype version. What is a bit different though is that we have this handy dandy little sidebar here that has a lot of useful information. So this is going to help you with kind of turn order and losing and gaining stats and how to calculate various things for the leg of the flight that you are flying. So that's quite nice. So this is really all you're going to need to play the game. Is you're going to need the tables and the map. Then you're going to want to have 2 markers, one to track the days, and then one to track your position. And then you'll just need 2 dice, ideally in 2 colors, 2 d6s, and that's really all that you need. So you don't always have to use this book, that is basically the rule book, but it is quite nice, and let's take just a quick flip through. The designer signed my copy, which really tickles me, and I think that if you buy a physical copy that he will probably also sign it for you, if you just leave him a note. Can't make any promises, but I love little personal touches like this. So you can see as we page through that we have some of the same artwork from the prototype version, but as we go on, we'll see a little bit more. The instructions are all in lovely full color. We have little sections with all new flavor text here. This is very nice. In the prototype version, we didn't get to have pictures of basically what it is that we're buying for our airplane. So for example, I didn't know what a fuselage or maybe a fuselage is, so I just had to kind of guess, and it's nice here that we can actually see the picture. And we can get a better idea of what this early airplane that we're flying looks like. A bit more flavor text here. Some nice diagrams. Everything is laid out very thoroughly. The print isn't too tiny. We have a section with an example of play, so that's always appreciated. And here at the back, we can see a few extras that are thrown in. So we have an additional novice and ace difficulty level, and also rules for multiplayer. You can play either cooperatively or competitively. Here we have a big list of achievements that you can get for this game. In the prototype version, the achievements existed as well, but there were not nearly so many. And what's neat is that you can also change your final score, basically, and see how famous you are at the end of your flight based on how many achievements you get. So you can be as famous, for example, as Jean Mermoz, who I've literally never heard of, or as famous as Amelia Earhart. And then at the back, we see our calculation sheet. Goes on for a while. Can have our logbook here with notes on our various journeys, and we can kind of keep a record of how our games go here. In the back, we have something that's a little bit unusual. This is a random number generator that you can use if you don't have any dice at hand. I do appreciate the inclusion of this. It's kind of quirky and strange, but I don't know how useful this actually would be. So what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to cut out all of these little boxes and flip them upside down and mix them up and then draw them, and that will generate your random number. But the thing is that the backs of the little cards would not all be the same. So I guess you'd have to pull them out of a hat or something, and they're kind of fragile because it's nice paper, but it's still just paper. I don't know, but I do appreciate this inclusion, and if for some reason you don't or can't have dice, you can of course maybe make a pack of numbered cards that you can shuffle. So that's cool. A little bit more flavor here. And that's the book. So this altogether is the final retail version of Route Finder Intercontinental. Let's get into our final thoughts. All right, so that was Route Finder Intercontinental. Let's get into the gameplay. So at its heart, Route Finder is the same game as it was during the contest. It's just been cleaned up and prettied up, and a few little tweaks have been made here and there. My overall thoughts about the gameplay have not really changed, so if you're interested, you can check out the original review that I did for this game, and there will be a link in the description box. In my first review, I described this as being kind of like an aeroplane version of the Oregon Trail, and that is still my opinion. So this game really relies a lot on luck. Just like the Oregon Trail, you start out the game and you have various resources that you need to allocate. You need to decide how much you want to spend on building your plane and how much you want to set aside for any unexpected costs that might come up during your journey. And then you just go, and a lot of what you do is left up to chance, which I think is very thematic. I mean, when you are just a lone pilot in an early airplane, just kind of flying this rickety bit of machinery over oceans, you really are at the mercy of Mother Nature and just whatever the fates throw your way. You do get to make some decisions. You do get to decide, for example, how you use your resources, whether you should press on and fly farther, how far you should push your luck. But ultimately, you can do everything right in this game and still fail miserably, and that's, I guess, just the reality of early air travel. But as I said, I already did review this game, so if you want to hear my complete thoughts, you can check out that review. Ultimately, the question is today, is this new final deluxe version worth it? So this game comes in both a hard copy and a PDF version. So the PDF version of this game is about $5 I believe, and this hard copy version is, I believe, $14 I can't quite remember, but I think it's around there, 14, 15. I would say if you played and enjoyed the original Route Finder, this is just a better version of that game, and so you should not hesitate to pick up the PDF. If you watch some gameplay and it seems intriguing to you, if you like the overall kind of mechanics and you're okay with the fact that this game isn't incredibly deep, you also should probably go pick up the PDF. And if you're somebody who's into old-timey airplanes, I think you should get this game because I don't think there are any other games like this with this theme. So yeah, all in all, the PDF version of this game I can recommend with not too many caveats for the right person. As for the hard copy version of this game, I'm a little bit on the fence. So there's no denying that this is a very nice handmade paperback booklet kind of thing here. It is in full color, the paper is nice and heavy, I believe it was hand assembled, and I know that it's not cheap to print and make books like this. Whether you want the hard copy version of the game really is all up to how much do you want a collector's item or something nice to put on your shelf. The game Route Finder is mostly played with just some tables, and so you're not going to be using this book that much anyway. So if you get the PDF and you just print off the tables and another copy of the map, you're going to be perfectly fine. But if you're a collector and you want to have the official hard copy, everything here in one volume version, then you might want to spring for that. So yeah, if you're not entirely sure if you want a hard copy, then I would say go for the PDF, and maybe then you can figure out if you just really need to have this paper version on your shelf. If you want to give this as a gift though, absolutely buy the hard copy version. I think this would make a really nice little present for somebody who likes old-timey airplanes, even people who might not be really avid gamers. I think if you're an airplane nerd, you would probably appreciate something kind of new and different like this. A lot of people have nostalgia for games like the original Oregon Trail, so I think that a lot of people would also get into this, especially if they like the theme. The game is fun solo, but it might be even more fun co-op, and maybe even more fun competitive. I haven't tested that out yet, but I think it would be kind of cool to be two different pilots in two different planes racing to get to Melbourne or whatever your target is. So this might be a fun family activity or something to do with your spouse or your kids. One thing I do wonder is why exactly the game is packaged like this. I'm not entirely sure if booklet format was the best way to package this together. I didn't really have any problem with opening it up and kind of prying open the staples, but the fact that the tables and boards have creases down the middle can be a little bit annoying. And I think that overall it might have been nicer if the tables came laminated so that you could write on them with a wet erase marker. Much in the same way as I did during my original gameplay video. The plus side of this little book format, though, is that it is quite compact and it's easy to fit on your shelf. A game like this would be a bit odd also to put in a box because it is just so small, except for the map, and if you were to put it in a box, you'd probably have to fold it up anyways, so I'm really not sure what the best solution for this would be. So my final verdict on this retail version of Route Finder Intercontinental is that it is a fun, light, little resource management simulation sort of roll and write game that you can play quickly and tell a little story to yourself. It might not appeal to everyone, especially if you're not too into the theme, But if you are into the theme and you don't mind a game with a bit of luck, I think that Route Finder Intercontinental might be worth a look for you. Thank you so much for watching. If you like what I do, then please subscribe, and if you like, you can also help support this channel on Patreon. My patrons are all wonderful, fantastic, generous people, and I want to thank all of them, but I want to give an extra special big thank you to my heroic tier supporter, Joshua Jumbles. So until next time, stay adventurous.